Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Yes, we have the Citroen CX behind us again and we have electrical issues. In my previous video you've seen us putting a starter motor on and that started perfect, absolutely lovely. Left it here over the Christmas, came back in, battery was dead. I just assumed maybe I left screen con or something like that. Started it, fired up straight away, no problem. Left it outside, half an hour later, again, battery dead. Then started it and it's making all sorts of problems. Sometimes this car is 100%, starts first time, ticks over, lovely. Then sometimes it absolutely splutters and farts like you wouldn't believe. Then sometimes it pinks. What I mean by pinking is when you turn it off, the engine's still running. Is it because the coil and everything's still getting power, which it shouldn't do. Battery's wearing down, there's a light on in the dash that sometimes stays on. So we've got loads and loads of electrical problems with this. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it isn't. What we need to do is we need to try and recreate the problem. I started it first thing in the morning, fired up straight away, no problems at all. Reversed it into the shed, stopped it, started it, we have the problem. So we have the problem now. That's important. You have to recreate the problem before you kind of go on. Because if you don't recreate the problem, you could just be checking things and that part could be fine, or that wire you check that time could be fine, but when you have the problem it might not be. What we're going to do first is very simple. We're going to do a battery drain test just to see if there is draw on the battery. And with it being an older car, so not being full of electronics, it's really easy to do. You just use well, I'll show you. Let's get to the battery, we'll show you. Right, all I'm using is a very simple test light, as you can see, nothing special. I've disconnected the earth to the battery, so I'm going to clip one end onto the battery, so one end onto the earth strap, you could say. Just like that. And the other end, I'm going to put to the battery. Now, bearing in mind you have to make sure everything's off, make sure your ignition's off, make sure all the lights are off, make sure everything is turned off, otherwise this test won't work properly. And as soon as I connect it to the battery, as you can see, that test light lights up. And not only does it light up really, really bright. When the car is behaving itself, I do this test and the light doesn't light up. You're expecting the light not to light up essentially. So with this test, instantly we can tell we've got a battery drain. Now if you're on a modern car, you can't do this. I'll do a separate video on how to test for a battery drain on a modern car. You can't do it this way because you will always get the light to light. Fair enough, it won't light this bright, but it will light. So we know we've got a draw. Now it's not important how much of a draw we've got. That's not important. We know we've got a draw. The draw is the most important thing. So what I'm going to do, we've got some fuses. Maybe you can see where my hand is. Just here, I think you can just see it. I'll see if I get the camera in closer. All I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this test light on the battery and I'm going to disconnect one fuse at a time, just separately. And I'm going to wait for this light to go out. That should give us a good indication what is causing our draw. So, we have the light on. I'm going to disconnect the top fuse. Light still on. That fuse back. Second fuse. Light still on. Third fuse. Aha! Now, disconnect number 3 fuse, and as you can see, we have no light anymore. So, we know we have a problem with number 3 light. I'm going to put that back in, and just for the hell of it, I'm going to do the rest just to make sure we haven't got something else somewhere. 2 more left. There we go. So, we have a problem with number 3 fuse, so I've disconnected it. Hopefully you saw that, it is fairly straightforward. Now, the problems with an older car is, what they normally do is, on a modern car you have loads of fuses, and you have loads of fuses for a reason, because one fuse normally only really powers one thing. It might do a couple of things, but it normally is one fuse for one thing, within reason. This, I have a feeling, could control loads of different things. There is a Haynes manual in the car, so I'm going to check the Haynes manual for the wiring diagrams and stuff, just because it's in the car. No point me turning the computer on and try and do all that. I'm just going to see if it does tell me what the fuses are and what it does. and then we can take a diagnosis from there. This is why I said it's important to recreate your problem. When I start this car, when it's absolutely fine, we get no draw. So if we get no draw, I can't go any further. I can disconnect them fuses all I want, but it's not going to tell me anything. Now, I've got some sort of idea where to look for. This is why when you get a car that's playing up, you always need to recreate the problem. That's the first thing. Depending on the car, it might do it when it's cold, it might do it when it's hot. If it does it when it's cold, you really do have to leave it overnight and start it first thing in the morning, and don't let it heat up too much, otherwise the problem will go. So you do need to know when it does the problem. This just does it, well, wherever it feels like it, whether it's hot, cold, whether it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to get the Haynes manual out and I'm going to see what this fuse controls. Right, this is the problem with the Haynes manual. It's covering too many vehicles, but we're going to get an idea from this. Are you ready? Interior lamp, boot lamp, cigarette lighter, clocks, hazard warning lamps, voltage regulator, ignition, reversing lamps, heated rear windscreen, handbrake, warning, heated washer, rear windscreen and wiper. Glove box, interior, I said ignition. So anyway, it controls a shitload of stuff on here. Now I've disconnected that fuse, the car will not start. It's completely dead. No ignition lights, no absolutely nothing. And like I said, it does sometimes work okay. So it's definitely, we've got problems with alternators, ignition and stuff like that. I don't know what's going on. I was hoping it might only be like one wire broke or earthing itself out or something short or something somewhere. He did originally tell me this car had a problem with the heated rear windscreen. It never really worked, and when he pressed it, the battery went dead instantly. So we've obviously got a problem there, but I think there's maybe other problems happened. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to look around, just do an inspection, just look around to make sure I cannot see any burnt wires, any broken wires, just in the engine bay. So I'm going to take 5-10 minutes. There's no point filming it, because all I'm going to do is go around checking all the connections, and see if I can physically see anything. Then I'm going to have to maybe go underneath the dash, because I have a feeling there's something burnt or something like that. Even though that fuse controls a lot of things, we've got 5 or 6 or 7 different problems with this car, and they all happen at different times. So I don't think we're just looking for one wire. I think we're looking for a multitude of problems, but hopefully they're all kind of together in a wiring loom somewhere. So I'm just going to have a quick look around here, make sure I don't see anything that is wrong or broken or anything, and if I find anything, we'll turn the camera back on. I hope you can see me, the sun's causing me a problem. I'm having a problem getting a proper wiring diagram for this. There's ones in the Haynes manuals, but there were 4 different models. It doesn't really seem to be the right ones. I've found a few online and a few on my computer, and they all seem to be conflicting with each other, so I don't want to go off that and cause myself a problem. So we're going to kind of have to do it kind of the old school way, which could take a lot longer, but there is a slight advantage I have with this, is what the customer told me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few checks and show you how to do some checks, and then we're going to do what the customer has actually told me is a problem. I've got something hopefully I can try, and we'll just have to go from there basically, but this could turn out to be a nightmare. Let's get in here and see. You see, it is funny, it's only after I did the start motor that we seem to have a problem, or we seem to have the problems we've been having. So is it something I've done? I honestly don't know at the minute. If it is, I'll hold my hands up and tell him, and if it isn't, well then it isn't. What I'm going to do is a few very simple checks, just literally disconnect a few things. Now, I have quickly done it with the start motor and the alternator. I can't show you that because they're just too far on the engine. But essentially, just undone the wires or undone the clips to see if we've still got a draw. For example, if you undo the wires from the alternator and the draw goes, well then you know you've mostly got a problem in the alternator somewhere, or the wires go into it. It just cuts it down to a specific thing. Because this fuse controls about 20 different things, we have to go through everything, unfortunately. It does control the alternator relay, controls the alternator, the ignition. It can just controls loads of things. So what I'm going to do, I have everything put back, so I have the fuse put back, connect everything back up. Right. So rather than disconnecting the fuse, because I know if I disconnect the fuse, that turns it off, but that doesn't tell me what's wrong. It just tells me that fuse, but that fuse controls hundreds of different things. So what I'm going to do is any clips I can find in the engine bay, I'm going to undo. I have done a visual inspection. I can't see anything wrong, and do the old wiggle test. So where you grab the wires and you wiggle everything to see if that light flickers or anything like that. If the light flickers, you know you've maybe got a cut in the wire somewhere. So I've kind of done the really basic things, and I'm not getting any change in that. There's a couple of different clips down here which I'm not going to be able to show you, but I'm going to disconnect them to see. There's one right down here. I don't know. Now that's disconnected and the light is still on, so that's not it. If I had a wiring diagram, it would be a lot easier because I could follow wires and I wouldn't kind of be guessing. But unfortunately at the minute I am really just guessing. Right, we have some wires here. So we have a connection here, just take off that connection. No, it's still on. A big bunch of wires here and a connection here, let's take off that connection. Ah, right. There we go. Right, the fuse is still in. I've disconnected that wire and we have no draw, so that's good. But we now have to figure out what these wires are going to. Let me just put it back. There we go, light's back on. Right, we're narrowing it down now. Like I said, with the newer car, it'd be so much easier because once you pull the fuse out, that fuse might only control 1, 2, possibly 3 things. You can narrow it down a lot more. We've got a lot of things it could be. So I'm just going to do again a quick visual inspection. So we've got a blue and a black wire, a heavy blue and black wire, and that's going into the wiring loom all the way up here. I can see a blue wire coming to the fuse, but that's going to number 4 fuse, which we didn't have a problem with number 4 fuse, number 3 fuse. But the wires going to number 3 fuse is a yellow wire. Right, so we also know that this is coming from the battery. So I've just disconnected a power circuit. I've just disconnected something that needs power and something that runs directly from the battery. So it obviously pulls quite a lot of power. And they are really, like I said, heavy duty wires. What I'm going to do, because I could just be chasing my tail on this and I could be at this and get absolutely nowhere. What I'm going to do is we'll just show you inside. Right, so we're now inside and we have a switch down here that controls the heated rear window. He did say there was a problem with this, but he said it only causes him a problem when he presses the switch. So that's why we don't press the switch. But it could just be a simple case of the switch is faulty, and we can check that very easy. Right, we have 2 kind of heavy duty wires. So what I'm going to do is just disconnect. I can't do it with the camera. That's what the camera does. Right, I've disconnected the switch, and as you can see we still have the light blaring, so we know it's not the switch. It was just a nice quick easy test to do. What I am going to do to show you, disconnect this and just put this battery connection back on. I'm going to look at that light now. Before anyone tries to be clever, I did say in the video on this car what I do to protect the customer's car, and I do wear gloves when I'm on the inside, but my hands are absolutely clean. Now the camera might not show it, but yeah, it does actually. You can just see a very faint light on that bulb at the end, just right here. That means it's basically on. Now the ignition is off, so that shouldn't be on for a start. So we definitely have a problem with that circuit. But is that all our problems, or is that just some of it? That's what we need to work out. And the problem is, where, if we have a problem, where is it? That comes all the way from the engine, underneath the dash, and then it goes all the way to the back of the car. So that break or cut or whatever's happened in that wiring, could even be the back window, could even be an issue. Whatever's happened is going to be quite difficult. Well, not difficult, but it is difficult, but an awful lot of stripping. So I need to be 100% sure before I do or say anything about this. This is where a wiring diagram would be a lot easier, because I could then go to that clip connection we've got. I could figure out what them two wires are going to, it will tell me, and then I can start working from there. That clip I disconnected has two wires going to it, and they are kind of heavy, so they obviously power something that takes a lot of juice. And there's only really a few things in the car that would kind of do that, and the rear window would be one of them. But like I said, sometimes this is not charging. Sometimes it is charging, sometimes it's pinking. So, you know, it's doing loads of different things. So for that one wire to be causing all this problem is looking a bit suspect. Now it could be doing something funky with the power. It could be, and fingers crossed, let's hope it is, because otherwise this could be a nightmare. What I'm going to do is, just for the hell of it now, is I'm going to disconnect the rear window. So what I mean by that is there should be two, I don't know if it's in the boot or in the back, there's going to be two wires going to the rear window. I'm just going to unclip them and then see what happens. Now, if that solves the problem, then it could still be the window, or it could be the actual wires going to the window. Because when you do a voltage drop test, if you do it on a circuit that needs to be powered, well, it needs to be drawing power. So again, I'll explain this in another video, but all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out them two wires going to the back of the rear windscreen heater. That's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to see, does that stop or draw? Does that make it better? Because remember, that light is really bright. Now if it goes half as bright, well, we know that's one problem, and we keep having to look. And unfortunately, what I'm going to have to keep doing is then looking at interior lights. So I'm going to have to go through it step by step, which is going to take ages. So the first thing is, I can't, well, I might be able to film it, let's see. Come with me for a walk. Everybody's asking me about the Cozzy, and there's a guy pissing on Japan. That pisses all the Jap boys off. But having said that, no Jap boy yet is overtaking it. I will be doing videos on that later. But anyway, now let's see what we're looking like. So open the boot. Of course, the boot is locked. Oh, what do I see there? The boot is locked. Just see a wire there and a wire there. Now that's inside, so I'm going to disconnect them from inside and let's see what happens. I'm not going to be able to film that unless I leave the camera here. Oh, can I leave the camera? That's a bit risky. It's going to fall off. No, not going to do that. Just going to disconnect them wires and then let's see what happens. Right, so now let's see what happens. So our fuse is in, our wires are in. Just check for a draw. Boom! Now, that is very, very dim. I don't know if the camera's going to show that. It's even gone out. Oh no, has it gone out? That is very, very, oh, it's gone out now. So, what that could be, well, we now know that that is definitely our draw, 100%. It lights up and it goes very dull. Now, we do have a little clock on the dashboard, and that what you see in there, that slight draw, could be the clock in the dashboard. I'm just going to check the bulb to make sure the bulb still isn't lit, but I think we have solved our problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to check the bulb. Let's see if that bulb's lit. Aha, look at that. Let's put my hand over. The bulb isn't lit. But like I said, we do have a clock this side. So that little bit of power that's drawing is most probably the clock. So I'm not worried about the clock. And that light's gone out. We're getting there. I think we're getting there. Hopefully you can see me, the sun is causing me a bit of problems. As we can see on the test light, straight away the draw is gone. There's a little bit left, which I think is the clock, so I'm not worried about that. What I am going to do is I'm going to put this battery connection back on and tighten it and leave it for about half an hour. Because after half an hour, even with the battery fully charged, it was dead, it was completely dead. So if it actually starts after half an hour, that's a good thing. Then I'm going to check to make sure it's charging, make sure it's doing everything, it's okay. And I'll do all this on camera. And if that's okay, I'm going to leave it till the morning and see if it starts. If it starts in the morning, then I definitely know that's our draw. But as regards fixing it, what is wrong? Well, we still don't really know that. We now have narrowed it down, which is great. We could have a problem with the rear window. Could be something weird about it, I don't know, could be a problem. But more than likely, most probably is maybe the wires going to it. I'm not really sure. I actually forgot where I was. I was just talking to a few customers there and I forgot what I was actually on about. But essentially, yeah, that's the way you'd kind of do it. Just go around disconnecting things until you find the problem. The wire test, the wiggling of the wires is really handy, because if you're watching the test light, if the light starts flickering as you're wobbling a wire, you kind of know where the break is or where the problem is and something like that, you know. So that really is it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this battery on. I'm going to leave the car for about half an hour with everything plugged in. I'm going to start it. We're going to see if it charges. If it's charging, that's a good sign. I want to take it for a spin up and down the road, make sure it's not missing, make sure it's not pinking. What I will do then is leave it overnight. If it starts in the morning, we know we're golden. Then I don't know if there's going to be a follow-up video for this. I'm not sure, because there's going to be a hell of a lot of stripping involved. I can even maybe test the wires, but even testing the wires isn't straightforward because I don't have a proper wiring diagram and I'd have to try and find exactly where they're going. So I'm not 100% sure, but we know we've possibly sorted the problem. We haven't fixed it, but if he's not really bothered about having a heated windscreen, then if he doesn't want me to do it, we won't do it. If he wants me to do it, we'll do it. So I'm not sure, it just depends. But when I turn this back on, or the camera back on, we're going to see if we're sorted or not. Right, so let's get this wrapped up. I don't know if there's going to be a part 2, because to fix this problem could be very, very expensive, and it's only really the heated rear windscreen, not really the biggest problem to have not working on your car. At least I say at least we've got the problem. I think we've sorted the problem. I'm just going to start this now. If this starts, then I'm pretty much certain we've got a problem. I will leave it overnight to see if it does start in the morning. If it starts in the morning, 100% we've solved our issue. We haven't fixed it, but we know what's wrong with it. So what I would suggest, if you are doing any kind of this work, if you do see a very faint light on your dash, check all your dash lights, check everything, because that's what I saw on this. Now the customer did say he had a problem, but he never said anything about the light, so we saw the light and that kind of led us to something. And you know, it's just unfortunately with no wiring diagram, it is kind of, you know, it can take a lot longer. With wiring diagrams, you can separate the circuits and you can just go through it, but I just couldn't get a reliable enough wiring diagram where I was confident to go from it, because if it's wrong, I'm just chasing my tail and I'm just going around in circles. So let's see if this starts now. It's been connected for about an hour, and like I said, even half an hour last time it wouldn't start, so let's see what happens. Sorted. I'm just going to leave that now because I've been trying to mess around. I'm going to leave that now to heat up properly, take it for a drive. Right, just to wrap up this video. Oh yeah, how are you, doggy? Just to wrap up this video, this is the next morning. It was freezing last night. So this is going to be a good test to see if this starts, how easy it starts and all that. Speaking to the customer, and he's not really bothered about doing the rear windscreen because there's a couple of problems. One, it's going to be kind of a lot of money to sort out. The other one is we're going to have to do an awful lot of stripping, and the problem is if we break clips or break connections or, you know, because we could potentially break a lot of rusty old bolts, the chances of trying to find them parts and to replace them is going to be very, very difficult and very expensive. So what I have suggested to him, if he wants to, I don't like doing it this way, but I think for something like this it's the best way. We can essentially wire in a new relay, new wires, and wire it up to the old switch, and we can essentially put a new wire patch in, completely new. You can just tuck it underneath the carpet. It's not gonna have to strip anything, and essentially going to save a fortune. So if you do run into this problem, that's what I would suggest to do, especially on a car like this, on an older car. Completely disconnect the old system and rewire in a new one, with new relays, new fuses, new everything, and that would definitely be the cheapest way. But let's see if this starts first, because I still don't know if I've actually solved the problem. Now, how easy did that start? That's because we put the electronic ignition in, and that electronic ignition is the key. So I'm going to wrap up this video. That's it. So I hope you like it, I hope it helps you and all that. So please like, share, subscribe, the usual stuff. All the links down below to our Facebook, our Instagram, our website, our forum, the GoFundMe card, absolutely everything is down below. Any questions, down below. But most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty for the next one. We fixed it! Kind of, well, yeah!